This video will walk you through the fan speed sensor replacement process for the Salford AB260CS mounted on a Case IH Trident chassis. This air boom uses an 8-inch Crary fan. If you've determined that the fan speed sensor on your air boom has failed, replacement is quick and easy. Before working on your machine, ensure that the chassis is turned off and there is no power running to the fan. Begin by removing the fan cage using a 15mm wrench or socket. Once the bolts have been removed, remove the cage and set aside. Next, unplug and remove the failed fan speed sensor. To loosen the fan speed sensor, an 1 3/4 crow's foot wrench may be used. Take the new sensor and install it on the bracket, loosely tightening the nuts on the sensor. Now, you will need to set the gap between the sensor face and the pickup bolts on the impeller. This gap should be around 1/8 of an inch. To achieve this, you may use the flatness of a zip tie as a reference, adjusting the sensor nuts until you've achieved the correct gap. Ensure that there is an 1/8 inch gap for both pickup bolts on the impeller. If the gaps between the bolts differ, you may need to adjust the depth of the bolts. Now, with the sensor in the correct position, tighten down the nuts on the sensor. This can be done with an 1 3/4 crow's foot wrench. The sensor and sensor nuts are made of plastic, so be careful not to over-tighten. Once the sensor is secured, it is recommended to double-check the sensor gap to ensure the sensor position did not shift when it was tightened down. Once verified, the new sensor can be plugged in and the fan cage can be installed. When installing the fan cage, look for a notch on the edge of the cage, as shown. This is to run the sensor cable through and avoids pinching and damaging the cable. Now, with the cage and cable in the correct position, reinstall the bolts holding the cage and fasten down. Do not over-tighten these bolts as they go directly into the aluminum fan housing. Because of this, an impact wrench is not recommended to tighten these bolts down. Once the cage is secured in place, you may test run the fan to check if the fan speed is displayed. Once verified, your Salford air boom is ready for the field.